Lakhdar Brahimi, UN Peace Envoy for Syria, it's great to have you with RT today, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be with you.
So we're talking now in Cairo, where the National Coalition for Opposition Forces and the Syrian Revolution is having its conference, and you will be meeting its leader, Muaz al-Khatib. Do you believe that direct talks between him and the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad are possible?
Not with President Bashar al-Assad, but with the government. It is necessary, yes, sure. I think, there are more and more people who accept that there is no military victory for any side, and that you need a political solution. And that political solution needs negotiations. And negotiations, I think, can take place between a delegation representing the government and the delegation representing the opposition.
So when you're saying he may be talking to the government but not the president directly, the problem is only in one man, in Bashar al-Assad himself or his team?
The problem is that the opposition is saying every 5 minutes that they don't want to talk to Bashar al-Assad. This is the problem. 6
months ago, your predecessor, Kofi Annan, resigned, saying that there is no way there could be a peaceful resolution in Syria.
No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that.
Has anything changed? You still believe that a peaceful resolution in Syria is possible?
I mean, no, first of all, Kofi never said peaceful resolution is never possible. He never said that. What he said was that, he was counting on the international community to help him, and the international community did not help him. So he said, for the moment, there is, we are in front of a wall. He didn't say that, he never said that there will never be a peaceful resolution. So, unless you are saying that there must be a military solution, which a lot of people say, but Kofi Annan did not say that, and I'm not saying that.
What's your take? Is peaceful resolution still a great possibility?
It is. It's not a possibility. For the moment, it is extremely difficult. It's not there. It's not happening, but it is a must. Syria either has a peaceful resolution, or then war until the country is destroyed. And if you don't want the country to be destroyed, and I don't think you do, then you really call for a peaceful resolution, difficult as it may be. You see, the choice really is between destroying Syria and having a peaceful resolution.
Can I ask you something? Why do you think Syrian uprising has such a strong terrorist element to it?
You see, this is again, what is it that you call terrorist? Very often, a lot of people call terrorism what others call liberation movement. And I think in Syria we have something similar. There are definitely acts of horrible violence, unacceptable violence, that is done by both sides. But to say that the struggle is between the government and terrorists is a little bit pushing it too far.
Sure. The UN Commission believes Jabhat al-Nusra al-Islam, Ahrar al-Sham, effectively jihadist terror brigades, are backed from abroad and they're operating in Syria.
A lot of people are backed from abroad. That doesn't necessarily make them terrorists. The Jabhat al-Nusra is considered a terrorist organization by a lot of people, including by a lot of Syrians. But that doesn't mean that everybody is a terrorist in Syria.
What do you make of Saudi's mission that they're actually supplying arms to the opposition?
People are supplying arms and recognizing it. Yeah, sure. The Russians are supplying arms to the government. Yeah, but they don't deny that. And we have a war now. You see, unfortunately, we have a war. A lot of Syrians, most Syrians as a matter of fact, both from the government and from the opposition, are angry with me because I call it a civil war.
But it is a civil war.
You at least you agree with me on something. Yes, you and I call it a civil war. A civil war always attract support from outside. And you have two sides in this civil war, and this is what Lavrov says. There are two sides to this, the opposition and the government, and they should negotiate. So let's make it very clear that there are organizations that are objectively can be considered as terrorists. There are organizations that are considered by the government as terrorists, as a matter of fact, who are not. In Syria, the main struggle is really between a large part of the people of Syria who want change. They want change in their country. And that is, I think, a legitimate aspiration. They want dignity, that's what they said. They want dignity, they want change, they want democracy. This is the struggle. There are foreigners. They are a tiny minority, maybe a few hundreds, maybe a couple of thousands, but there is 100,000 at least of armed people who are fighting against their government, unfortunately. So, I mean, don't try to say that it is foreigners who are fighting against the Syrian government. This is not the case.
So you feel like Syrian people could go on living in a secular country, even if Assad goes?
I hope so.
That's all I'm asking.
That's not what you asked. If you are asking that, yes, definitely. And I think that a lot of people in Syria and outside of Syria very much want Syria to continue to be a secular state. Why
do you think it has taken so long? It's been 2 years already.
That's a very good question. That is the best question you have asked. You have a very strong, well-organized regime who are determined to stay in power. They have the means, they have the military means to fight, and they are doing so. The opposition is, in spite of all the weapons they receive, are not well organized. They are mostly civilians who are taking up arms. And that is why they can keep the struggle going. They cannot win a military victory. But the government also cannot defeat them. This is, you've seen this 1,000 times. That is why, once again, a political, peaceful solution is what is necessary and good for the Syrian people.
When I was in Syria 3 months ago, Assad said that he actually will stay until 2014, wait for the election, and then see what happens. I mean, is this a realistic plan?
I would very much like the problem to be solved long before 2014. If it were possible to be solved before 2014, it's much better than waiting until 2014.
Because we're talking about civil war and he's talking about elections. How does these two go together?
They don't. You can't have election while civil war is. You need to stop the civil war. And the civil war can be stopped through the negotiations on the basis of the Geneva Agreement. So if we have that resolution, then we'll have an election. What kind of an election depends on the results of the negotiations.
Is his future in his own hands at this point? Should it be in his own hands? I'm talking about Assad.
I don't want to talk about that.
Let me ask you one more question about Assad. Do you think the only problem is in Assad and him not stepping down?
That is, a lot of people who are opposed to, who are involved in this conflict in Syria, think that the president is a serious, important part of the problem. This is a fact, and they repeat it every day.
Do you believe that's the problem?
It doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what you believe either.
You talk directly to the American government. They believe that he's the problem. Do you think it's an oversimplistic approach or no?
Yeah, I'm sure you will interview Americans and you will ask them.
But do you speak with the Syrian government and Assad directly, as you speak to the opposition and their leaders also?
We have an office in Damascus and we keep in very close connection, and I saw President Assad end of December, sure.
What messages are they sending to each other? How have their behaviors towards each other changed in recent months?
I don't think it has changed enough to bring them to the negotiating table, and this is what a lot of people, including Mr. Lavrov, are working on.
The coalition seems to be under a great influence of many international players. You have the Arab Gulf states, you have the United States, you have Turkey. No? Tell me if I'm mistaken, you please, because that's the impression we get.
Go on. What is the question?
All I'm asking is that, is it hard to negotiate with a coalition that is influenced with different international forces?
Everybody, in the world today, people are connected to one another, they are influenced by one another. I deal with Russia, I deal with Turkey, I deal with the United States, because these are countries that, I think rightly, not wrongly, think that they have an interest, they have a concern, they have fears about what is happening in Syria. And I think they all can help the Syrian people and me get to a solution.
Do you fear there is a chance that an Iraqi scenario could unfold in Syria, where sectarian violence spills over?
Absolutely. This is what needs to be avoided. This is what, you have already some overtones of sectarianism that are, becoming more and more visible in the struggle in Syria. And that is why the earlier the problem is solved, the better.
Who is to take care of that at this point? You said overtones are heard at this point. Who is to deal with that now?
I think both parties. Both parties have to be extremely careful to avoid, and I think they are aware of it, but they need to be a little bit more careful, not to allow the situation to slip into a purely sectarian conflict.
Mr. Brahimi, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.